Part 23. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 222. Finally. Naturally, it ended with the burly ghost's temporary defeat. He first accidentally beat his son to death, and then blamed him on his wife, causing his son to be lost in her hands. Finally, after feeling guilty, he dismembered his wife to show his anger. In this case, he resorted to using the enemy. I don't dare to tell the truth to my wife at all. I can only accept this fake human being with resignation. But as long as he finds an opportunity to expose the true face of this human being and let him admit that he is a fake, everything will be solved. With this thought, he temporarily chose to retreat. It's only a few days anyway. The burly ghost showed a silent ferocity. I'm going to deal with this filthy human being. Dragging the body of the human player, the burly ghost walked out of the yard. The footsteps were heavy. But thinking about everything he had done, he could not release his anger in this family. It can only be vented on humans. He remembered that before he came back, he saw signs of human activity in several villas and went to see if he could encounter one or two more. He wants to vent his anger. Until the burly ghost is gone. Only then did the needlework ghost let go of Shenjian, revealing the face of a mother doting on her son. Okay, go and wash your hands. The food will be ready soon. Then help mom to call your sister. It's time for you siblings to get acquainted with each other when they reunite. Said. The needlework ghost returns to the kitchen. Shenjian was thoughtful. The fourth person in the family turned out to be the elder sister. Shenjian walked up to the second floor. Open the door. Jingle bell. The crisp human bone bell rang. A boxy, coffin-like bed stood upright, facing the door. Hearing the bone bell, the female ghost lying on the coffin bed opened her eyes. Eyes facing each other. No one made a sound. Shenjian looked over. Coffin ghost Xiao Shuet. Level, Xingyi level. Introduction, a poor sister, because she did not go to school that day, witnessed her brother being beaten to death and her mother being dismembered, which left an eternal shadow in her heart. She only dared to sleep standing up when she heard the slightest movement wake up. Current status, friendly, sick, twisted. Favorability, 50, friendly. Shenjian looked stunned. This fierce ghost was actually a witness to the original incident. And under the influence of the title of Dungeon Collapser, this evil ghost's favorable opinion of him actually reached as high as 50 points. This is the first time I've seen it. While thinking, the coffin ghost has woken up. He showed a weird smile. Brother, you are finally back. I am so happy. Come in and talk to sister. The eerie invitation voice slowly echoed outside the door. The female ghost woke up from the coffin bed with a very happy face. It seems that Shenjian was also identified as her missing brother. Shenjian was thoughtful. Think about it. He said, how happy are you? Coffin ghost. Her smile faltered. I had already planned to fool myself. Why did this human being start not following the routine? Anyway, I'm very happy. Then you are happy too early. Coffin ghost? No. You must be deliberately looking for trouble. She adjusted her breathing and said sadly, you are going to die, do you know? Oh. I heard all your quarrel just now. Mom's illness is getting more and more serious. She misses her brother so much that she has regarded you as her son. But that man and I know who you are clearly. Once that man finds you, if you expose your true identity, you will be close to death. The cruelty of that man is beyond your imagination. Once your true identity is exposed, not only will your mother not come to your rescue, she will even join forces with that man to kill you. Your life has entered a countdown. The coffin ghost did not hide his attitude at all. To the burly ghost, who is his father, he calls that man directly. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. What do you want to say? The coffin ghost stood up with a smile. Cooperate with me and kill that man. Only by killing him will your true identity not be exposed. With all due respect, you, a Tsingyi level devil, don't seem qualified to say this. Shen Jian spread his hands. Coffin ghost? Are you looking down on me? Shen Jian glanced twice, understood what she meant, and nodded. Coffin ghost. You are so damn rude. I am indeed not qualified to intervene in the red-coated battle, but I can weaken that man's power in advance. When the time comes, I will be a witness and expose everything this man has done. When the time comes, Mother will join forces with you, and the three of us will work together. More than enough to kill him. How? Do you want to cooperate with me? Shen Jian nodded. He had no reason to refuse. Expose everything the burly ghost has done and keep maternal love to yourself. This is what he will do next. It was just that he thought that his words alone could not hold up, so he did not choose to take action. Now that the coffin ghost has a plan and is ready to tell the truth, he naturally has to cooperate well. He had a premonition. The time for maternal love to reach 100 points of favorability is in these few days. At this time, scarlet panels also began to emerge. Trigger side mission. Side mission, become the head of the family. Content, the player accepts the invitation of the coffin ghost and plans to kill the burly ghost. The pillar of the family will be killed. Orphans and widowed mothers will inevitably be bullied. Please become the head of the family and intimidate all owners. Shen Jian looked stunned. This task. So heartwarming. For the first time, Shen Jian felt that thriller game understood him. This meal. Everyone enjoyed their meal. The needlework ghost found his son, and mother and son reunited. The coffin ghost has found a helper and is about to solve his inner nightmare. Shen Jian is very interested in becoming the head of the family. The burly ghost thought that he would reveal the identity of this human being in a few days and restore his prestige as the head of his family. And the traces of stitches on my wife's body are gone. She has regained her image as a wealthy lady. He was moved again. He smiled happily at the thought of killing two birds with one stone in a few days. After meal, Shen Jian left the villa. According to Coffin Ghost, she needs a few days to prepare the props to weaken the burly ghost. Tentatively scheduled for 2 days later. Shen Jian had no objection. During these 2 days, he also needed to brush up on his adoptive mother's goodwill. Chat interface. Shame, I triggered a hidden mission to find the source of resentment in this past life villa area. Participants can increase the game score if you are interested. Come. Shen Jian was startled. The source of resentment in the villa area, isn't that his goal here? Then he walked over according to the location. On arrival, 6 out of 10 players have come. Except for one player who died at the hands of a burly ghost, there were still 2 players who did not reply. It's not clear if he's dead or just not interested. A player asked, Brother Evil, can you tell me the specific situation now? The devil wearing a ghost mask was silent for a while. The owner I chose was a devil who participated in the construction of the villa in the past life. After he got drunk, he told me personally that the reason why there are constant grievances and family misfortune here is because of the underground of this community. Buried there is a woman who is unleashing a curse. Tang Xin solemnly said, it's a living stake. Yes, my hidden mission is to resolve the grievances of this female ghost. Every participant will receive a certain score bonus based on their participation. Jin Mei finished speaking in one breath. Tang Xin was the first to ask, what level is this fierce ghost? Yes, only by knowing this can we judge whether to follow up. Boss, since you have chosen to cooperate with us, you must be unsure. Tell us the specific situation so that we can make a better judgment. All the players, you say something to me. Everyone looked at the demon wearing a ghost mask. It's the top. The words haven't been spoken yet. He changed his words. It's a red-clothed level devil. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 223. Only the red code level? You can try it then. When they heard that the terrifying level of the evil ghost was only the red-clothed level, all the players felt a flash of fear in their hearts, but they looked at the other people present and then looked at the player wearing the evil ghost mask with a level as high as 39. They weighed. After a while, I discovered that there was much to do. Every player present is a ghost master, and they all control supernatural puzzles. At critical moments, everyone is a fighting force. Especially the evil boss is about to reach the standard of a 4-star player. Not to mention controlling 3 fierce ghosts, but 2 would be adequate. And there's also an unexpected player among them. That is Shenjian. The other party chose Li Gui, a lady with a somewhat abnormal mental state, as a foster family. She stayed there for most of the day and was not killed. She was able to freely enter and exit the villa and came here. Thinking about it, it must have defused the attack of the red-clad ghost to a certain extent. In terms of strength, he is definitely the second best. Only the evil boss. With these 2 players here, plus them, it is still possible to suppress a red-clothed ghost full of resentment. Everyone started to take stock. Tang Xian was a little suspicious. It's not that she discovered any flaws, it's just that she felt that the level of terror was too low. A number 8 villa can give birth to a top-notch red-clad ghost. How could such a cruel thing as driving a living stake lead to the birth of an ordinary red-coded class? To know. According to Jin Mei, this evil ghost has affected the operation of the entire past life community to a certain extent, constantly releasing curses and making every household miserable. Such a terrifying ghost, she would believe him even if he said he was the king of ghosts. How could it possibly be the red code level? Think about it. Tang Xian leaned close to Shen Jian's ear and lowered her voice, "Master, this person may be misleading us, so be careful." Shen Jian glanced at her. He said earnestly, "Xiao Tang, you need to have more basic trust when dealing with others." I think what he said is true. I attended. Shen Jian was the first to agree. Made a start. Tang Xian? She looked at Shen Jian in shock. But then I thought about it. To the master, it doesn't seem to matter whether it's misleading or not. Even if the terrifying level of this fierce ghost is above the red level, the master can still deal with it with confidence. Look at it this way. Does it matter whether it is fake or not? What's more, it makes the other party mistakenly think that they are easy to deceive. Isn't this a method of luring the enemy in the open and I in the dark? She has a quick mind. Instantly I understood Shen Jian's good intentions. He looked at Shen Jian in admiration. A humble attitude that wants to learn a lot from the other person. I'll join in too. Then. She seconded. See it? Other players who were ready to make a move also agreed. At this time, the Scarlet panel emerged. Trigger hidden tasks. Hidden mission, investigate the truth behind the deceased community and resolve the grievances of the evil ghosts. Content, she seems to be looking for her husband and son, so much so that she is still full of resentment even after being turned into a living pile. Note, this task is a rare hidden task, and the task proportion will be determined based on participation. If the total proportion exceeds 50%, there is a chance to obtain special rewards. As the panel appears, all players accepted the mission. Everyone's eyes widened. Did I read that correctly? Special reward. Oh my god, after playing a horror game for so long, this is the first time I have seen a hidden mission with special rewards. I heard from the old people in the supernatural circle that most of the special rewards are related to real estate in the horror world. If I could once you get a piece of real estate, you can count the money while lying down. Stop dreaming. The participation accounts for more than 50%. In addition to being involved in every detail throughout the process, I'm afraid I also need to cause a lot of damage to Ligui. Think about whether you have the strength. But there is no doubt that everyone is excited about the special rewards on the board. His breathing began to become rapid. It's just that some people exclaimed, some were calm, and some were self-aware. Their eyes fell on 11 May. The only person present who could cause serious harm to the red-clad ghost was probably him. This special reward. He had already pocketed it in advance. Players like them can only follow behind and drink some soup and water. Tang Xian looked at Shen Jian subconsciously. If he could single out this red-clad ghost, he might be able to get 100% of the mission share. However, she didn't see any emotion fluctuations on Shen Jian's face. It seems that this special reward is just like that in the eyes of the great god. She could only swallow back what she was about to say. Looking at the enthusiasm in everyone's eyes. There was also a hint of smile on the demon's face hidden under the evil ghost mask. 50%? No, he wants 100%. Waited for a while. The players also calmed down. Start analyzing the difficulty of the task. One player said, the obsession of this evil ghost seems to be her husband and son. If we can find them, we may be able to resolve this evil ghost's resentment without having to do anything. It's difficult. The community has been established for more than 50 years. No one knows how this evil ghost was selected as a living stake in the first place. Even her information is gone, let alone her husband and son. Also, I heard that the best candidates for driving stakes are actually babies, followed by families, and finally men and women. Instead of arguing about this, who of you knows where the living stakes were originally driven? Ghosts like this that become living stakes usually have a fixed range of activities. Without finding this location, resolving grievances is just nonsense. One player spoke. Ended the debate on the spot. All players frowned. Really? A fierce ghost with a fixed range of activities will be useless without first finding out the location. Don't worry about this. I've already investigated it clearly. It's in Villa No 1. At this time, the devil spoke. The other players saw this. No more words. Shen Jian saw it. No interruption either. Based on his knowledge of the past life villa area. The smaller the number of villa areas here, the further back they are located. Villa number 1 was not used to live in after it was originally built, but was used as a landmark. The location of the living pile is in Villa number 1. There is no doubt that it is true. The group of people took advantage of the getting dark and started walking towards Villa number 1. When passing by Villa number 3, they found that the yard of this family exuded a very smelly smell, as if some corpse was rotting and moldy here. Just thinking about it, the door of Villa number 3 suddenly opened. A crack was exposed. Everyone was shocked. They all became alert. I saw a man with a pale face and half of his head bitten off. After seeing a few people, he was a little surprised at first, and then a sinister smile appeared on his face. But it was just a fleeting moment. Then, the man looked anxious and waved to several people. It's late at night. You've almost entered Villa number 2. Don't you want to live? Come here quickly. Hear the ghost's voice. Everyone remained calm and alert. They are all old people in horror games. They are also considered to be at the forefront of research on Ligui. Before Ligui is completely angered, Ligui will instinctively abide by the killing rules and will use various methods to try to make humans trigger the killing rules. That's the case with this one right now. Following Ligui's words is a taboo in thriller games. No player would do that. That was what they were thinking 3 seconds ago. Until Shen Jian walked out very innocently and asked nervously, "Brother, what's the situation? Is there anything dangerous ahead?" "It's fierce, the front is very fierce. Whether it's Villa number 2 or Villa number 1, it's a first-class dangerous place. If you don't want your friends to die, let them come over immediately. Otherwise, if they are discovered, I won't be able to save you," the man said somewhat harshly. Shen Jian heard this. His eyes almost glowed, and he shouted quickly, "Didn't you expect what this brother said? Come here quickly, it's very dangerous ahead." "Everyone? No. Brother, what's the matter with you? Why should you follow Li Gui's words and cooperate with him? Don't you know that it's easier to trigger the killing pattern this way?" They were confused. It was unclear whether Shen Jian did it intentionally or unintentionally. Hesitated again and again. They walked over anyway. Because this fierce ghost seems to know the situation in Villa number 1. The man opened the door of the villa. After everyone entered, they saw his appearance clearly. Half of the head was bitten off, and there were more or less signs of being eaten on other parts, but the man didn't notice it. He spoke and acted like a normal person. "You really don't want your life." The man looked at the few people and reprimanded, "Thankfully you met me. Otherwise, if you had taken a few more steps and entered the area of Villa number 2, no one would be able to save you. Is there any danger ahead?" Shen Jian cooperated. "The owner of Villa number 2 in front has several large dogs. Once they smell the smell, they will attack immediately. They are extremely ferocious. Look at me. Here, here, and here, they are all covered by dogs. It's from these big dogs." The man pointed at half of his head and his eaten body. There seemed to be a bit of fear in his expression. Everyone looked at it suspiciously. Didn't believe the statement. Because the bite wounds on this fierce ghost's body were so neat. If he was bitten by a large dog, the wounds should be jagged, not like this. This looks like it was bitten by a human. Shen Jian remained calm. He didn't clarify it, but grabbed another doubtful point and asked, "That's not right, brother, these wounds on your body should have been bitten dozens of times. Since you know that there are large dogs there, why can't you go around them? How about road or moving? I understand, you like this feeling of self-abuse." Half-headed ghost. He couldn't stand it any longer. The corners of his mouth twitched. God really likes this feeling. He gave Shen Jian a slightly painful look. This human brain circuit seems a bit strange. "Calm down." The man reorganized his words. Pointing to a villa further away. "That's because we need to go to Villa number 1 to quell the grievances of the living pile. I have no choice. Every time I walk there, I feel scared. Because I have been bitten so many times and feel the same way, I don't want you to make the same mistake again. After all, I live closest to Villa number 2. I can save everyone," the man said. There seemed to be some excitement in his tone. Then, there seemed to be constant roars resounding in the villa. It's like a hungry zombie that needs something to chew is making a feeding roar. Everyone was horrified. This voice is really too penetrating. It was even more frightening than the roar of ordinary ghosts. "Hear sounds." The man also ran back in a hurry. While running, he said, "You guys wait a minute, I have something to take care of." Finished. He ran all the way back to the villa. All the players looked at each other. There was some hesitation. Because this fierce ghost seems to really know something about Villa number 1. Even the living stakes know it. And he also said something about calming down the grievances. Isn't this what they will do next? If you can learn from the other party how to calm down your resentment, it will definitely be helpful in completing the task. Everyone was planning to say something. Shen Jian had already walked out of the yard with a feeling. Under the faint moonlight, a black shadow can be seen wandering in the distance. And was staring at them. Seeing Shen Jian coming out, his face showed a hint of surprise and a hint of joking that he had found his prey. While waving, he lowered his voice and said, "Come here quickly. Are you desperate for your life? Villa number 3 is a haunted house, and you dare to go in. Players. It's not over, right? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 224. Hear this familiar tone and familiar words. All the players were stunned for a moment. You two got through, right? Your words were exactly the same. It is hard not to suspect that the owners of Villa number 2 and Villa number 3 are working together to stage a large-scale fraud game. No one should be fooled by such an obvious flaw in rhetoric. They subconsciously looked at Shen Jian. His face became stunned. Because Shen Jian is missing. Look forward. He was suddenly almost in front of the black shadow. Although that big guy is strong, he is too easily misled. He probably won't believe what these ghosts say. Some players frowned. Because Shen Jian's performance was too naive. It's like being a newbie to a horror game. That is what they often call pig teammates. But at this level, there should not be such demented teammates. For a moment, they were in disarray. Tang Xin. She just looked at it and said nothing. This is obviously the evil spirit of the great god has returned. Based on what she observed in these two dungeons, what the master liked most was to use the same method to scare the ghosts, and he would only think of a solution after having enough fun. As for other people's opinions and views, God doesn't care. But firmly supporting the image of a great god is what she should do. Don't worry, he is very professional. You think he believes in this evil ghost? Why don't you believe that this is a way to win the trust of the evil ghost and obtain information? Finished. Tang Xin walked forward quickly with long legs. Went late. But I can't see the most exciting part. She still wants to continue studying. Players. Win the trust of the devil? So exaggerated? According to their understanding, evil ghosts are often the most insidious and vicious existences. They kill people at the slightest disagreement, and even kill people without blinking an eye after triggering the killing pattern. How could such a vicious existence be so easy to trick? On the contrary, what they saw the most were some smart players, who ended up wailing in pain under the torture of the ghosts. With this deep suspicion, everyone followed. They suspected that this was also part of a hidden mission. Because the owner of Villa number 3 mentioned living stakes and ways to calm down grievances, the owner of Villa number 2 should also know. In addition to fighting, there seems to be a better way to calm down grievances. After getting closer, the sneaky shadow before spoke. You are so unafraid of death that you dare to stay at the door of Villa number 3. Don't you know that the family of the owner there has a strange disease? This strange disease cannot be cured, it can only be alleviated, and the way to alleviate it is to eat meat. There was a sinister smile on the face of the dark man, and he deliberately emphasized the last two words, as if to imply something. Everyone also saw it. The man spoke. It seemed that he was still chewing something in his mouth. There was an indescribable fishy smell that assaulted your nostrils. Like it comes from the man himself, but also like it comes from something he chews. And the owner of Villa number 3 is missing dozens of dollars, as if he has been bitten. Is it possible that those evil spirits in Villa number 3 are eating the owner's flesh? The thought of this. All the players suddenly felt a chill. Eat meat, Shen Jian thought very seriously, I am a very professional quack doctor. Based on my professional experience, I really can't think of any disease that needs to be alleviated by eating meat. Oh, right. If I have to say it, zombie virus is a possibility, but if it is really such a disease, I personally recommend eating some vegetarian food. After all, eating meat alone is too boring. You need to combine meat and vegetables and arrange your diet reasonably. Shen Jian looked serious. The man was also concentrating on hearing this, but at the end his face muscles twitched. Chewing ghost. He was in great pain. If he hadn't heard about the zombie virus, he would have really believed this quack explanation. It's not that simple. The man forcibly brought the topic back to the scary atmosphere. The meat that the family eats is not ordinary meat, but this kind of meat. Said. The chewing ghost took out a large pack of oil paper from his body. Under darkness. There was blood seeping out of the oil paper. It looks more and more permeable. Look, what kind of meat is this? The chewing ghost has an eerie voice. Seems to be smiling. Looking forward to something. Shen Jian looked over. Wrapped in oil paper were white pieces of meat, bones, and dripping with blood. After thinking about it, Shen Jian said with a disappointed look on his face, "It turns out to be pork. I thought it was zombie meat. I was disappointed." Chewing ghost. His face was blank. "Goddamn pork. Your eyes are on your butt. Pork? If you take a closer look, these meats are much more valuable than pork." The chewing ghost hasn't given up yet, and is tempting him slowly. "Not pork." Shen Jian showed a trace of doubt, his expression tightened, as if he was analyzing, then his face changed slightly, he covered his mouth, and subconsciously took a few steps away. "See it?" The chewing ghost smiled even more ferociously. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth and he said, "What, do you see it now?" Shen Jian looked disgusted and said, "Such a strong smell, if I'm not wrong, this should be mutton." "Keep it away, I can't smell such a nasty smell." Chewing ghost? The smile on his face completely froze. The originally prepared line seemed extremely abrupt at this moment. "Mutton. After working on it for a long time, you guessed this? Damn you, you really have a funny mentality." Chewing the hand holding the oiled paper, he stood there in a daze. Some don't know what to say next. Players. You are good at pretending to be confused. Everyone's eyes flickered. No one spoke, everyone was waiting for the chewing ghost's reaction. This fierce ghost is a redcoat level through and through. Once the restrictions of the killing rules are broken, one can imagine how terrifying it will be. Only by gathering everyone's strength can we learn about villain number 1 from this fierce ghost. Crunch. At this time, the door opened behind me. A scolding sound came. "You monster, get out of my place." Accompanied by the sound of waving kitchen knives, the owner of villain number 3, who had left and returned, simultaneously issued a warning. The players turned their heads and saw that the half-headed ghost from before was holding a bloody kitchen knife and waving it from the crack of the door, trying to scare someone away. His face was covered in sweat and he was clearly scared. But in order to save people, he still suppressed his fear and spoke. "Ghost, you still dare to lie to people. You let dogs hurt people, and then you drag the bodies back and package them into pieces of meat for sale. Do you think I don't know what you are doing? How dare you spit out the things in your mouth and let others see them? Come here quickly, that person is dangerous. See this." The chewing ghost also had a cold look on his face, with a look of fear on his face, and he also scolded, "Stop pretending, do you think what you do is perfect? For your family, you will bring back fresh flesh and blood every few days. If you don't have enough, you will use your own meat to feed them. Do you dare to tell these people where the wounds on your body came from? Quick, come with me. He has just fed me by himself. This means that his fresh flesh and blood reserves are not enough. If you follow him, you will become his flesh and blood reserves." The two fierce ghosts exploded at each other. Confrontation in the air. But those two ghost faces look so terrifying and infiltrating. It seems that this is not a reminder, but a way to tell each other's horrors through each other's mouth. Everyone was caught in the middle. There was a dilemma for a while. At this time, Shen Jian spoke, "Is there any misunderstanding between the two brothers? I think you are both good people. Have you been misled by someone in your judgment? This is not okay. You are neighbors. If there is any misunderstanding, can you make it clear?" said. Shen Jian dragged the chewer to villa number 3. Chewing ghost? Half-headed ghost? The two ghosts were shocked. Are today's human beings already so courageous? They really didn't expect that when faced with such a weird scene that they couldn't distinguish between true and false, the man in front of them was not only unafraid, but also so kind-hearted, trying to get them to clear up their misunderstandings. Misunderstanding. This is all true, why does this human being not believe it? Do you suspect that the thing in his mouth has an unclean origin? Stop eating it and spit it out to prove your innocence. While dragging the chewer, Shen Jian slapped him in the mouth and slapped him more than a dozen times until he spit out everything in his mouth. But that face was too miserable to look at. Watch this scene. Everyone present couldn't help but talk wildly. This is too rude of you. The chewing ghost was also slapped stupidly. In anger, he was about to explode into violence, but under Shen Jian's increasingly powerful cock, the anger he just mentioned gradually died out. It hurts. It hurts. He wanted to curse. What is going on with this human being, and why does an ordinary big mouth hurt so much? It stings 100 times more than being cut into pieces by 1,000 cuts. Look at this brother, he doesn't resist me. It's obvious that he is so broad-minded because of his confidence. Look at what he vomited out. Isn't this mutton? Although it is indeed not good to eat raw, but this after all, it's someone else's special hobby, and we can't control it. Shen Jian left the chewer at the door of villa number 3. His eyes fell on the half-headed ghost again, and he turned around and said, "Look at this brother, and I will pat him again to prove it to you." The half-headed ghost's expression immediately changed. "Stop, I haven't eaten anything, why are you filming me? You bitch, you're addicted to making faces, right?" Shen Jian looked like he already understood, and said confidently, "I have said before, I am a very professional quack doctor. I have noticed early on that you have a tendency to self-abuse." Ah! The half-headed ghost was stunned. What self-flagellation? He cut off the meat and fed it? Who would like to torture themselves? Isn't this mean? There is no need to be afraid of doctors. If you are sick, you should seek treatment as soon as possible. Self-abuse is a very serious mental illness. If it persists for a long time, it will have a very serious impact on your life. Shen Jian waved. Moreover, doesn't the owner of villa number 2 think that the wounds on your body are for cutting meat to feed his family? Let me help you break the rumor. Generally, self-abuse lovers will feel pleasure from being whipped. So, a bad premonition flashed through the half-headed ghost's heart. So, as long as you let me slap you a few times, and you can feel pleasure from my slaps, it will prove that you are not cutting meat for feeding, but simply self-abuse. Shen Jian looked very confident. Half-headed ghost. He was completely stunned. His eyes widened, looking very shocked. Damn it, as long as you feel pleasure during slapping, it's self-abuse. This method of yours cannot be thought of by anyone who has not had cerebral thrombosis for 10 years. The key is, he is really feeding his family, not self-abuse. How could you be beaten and still feel pleasure? No, if you do this, what if you prove that I am not self-abuse? What if I accidentally beat to death by you? The half-headed ghost tried to correct this idea that humans were so wrong. Who knows? Shen Jian looked strange and said, "Wouldn't that be better? If one of you dies, then the misunderstanding will be resolved." Two fierce ghosts. They opened their mouths. But he couldn't say a word. They could clearly detect the error in the statement, but they didn't know how to refute it. You can't say that everything they do is true and not false. What's the point of being scary? But don't say it. I felt very frustrated again. It's like knowing you've been cheated but not daring to report the crime. Out of necessity. The half-headed ghost was about to close the door. At the same time, he also said, since he is chewing mutton, I misunderstood. Let's stop this matter. It's too late now. It's time to go back to sleep. Finished. He closed the door. But a hand stretched out. Shen Jian said seriously, how can that be done? Putting aside the facts, your illness is equally serious. Self-abuse is not a minor illness. You need to see a doctor as soon as possible. I can help you take a look. Said. Shen Jian had already put a hand on the half-headed ghost's shoulder. His body was forcibly fixed. A huge force came. A crisp slap sounded. The half-headed ghost widened his eyes, covered his sunken face, and looked at Shen Jian in disbelief. He stopped playing. This human being wants to die, so don't blame him. Resentment flashed across the half-headed ghost's face. When Shen Jian's second palm attack came, the pale ghost's hand grabbed it and was about to break the human's hand. Snapped. Another slap came up. The half-headed ghost looked at his deformed and twisted palm in shock. Not only was he unable to grasp the human's hand, but it was forcibly broken. He is a red-clothed level fierce ghost. This human being is not that simple. The idea just popped up. The slaps sounded rhythmically one after another. 3 long and 1 short. Stop fighting. I admit that I have a tendency to self-abuse. These wounds were all caused by me. Shen Jian's slap just stopped, and then he thought of something. No, you haven't shown a happy expression yet. This is not a normal sign of self-abuse. You are still trying to hide it? It seems that I haven't hit you hard enough. It's quite fun to have fun at home. Said. Shen Jian took out the morning stick. Hit it again. Ah! Everyone present was dumbfounded. What's the situation? 2 red-clad fierce ghosts were slapped one after another. Not only did he not resist, but he begged for mercy? This is too unreal. When did the red-clad devil become so inferior? Just do it, what's the point of yelling? Looking at the red-clothed ghost who kept screaming and begging for mercy, all the players present looked like their worldview had collapsed. Is it because they overestimated the red-coated ghosts, or is Shen Jian actually very strong and can suppress the red-coated ghosts? Is it possible? He is only level 34. At best, he can control 2 fierce ghosts. How could a ghost master of this level be a red-clad opponent? Not to mention beating the opponent until he begs for mercy. Half an hour later, the half-headed ghost was lying on the ground. He looked like he was being tortured beyond belief. It's over. He's finished. He actually felt the pleasure that Shen Jian said. Could it be that he is really a pervert who likes to abuse himself? The thought of this. He suddenly became hopeless. The chewing ghost's face turned pale, and he felt a little sympathy for the half-headed ghost's plight. Just thinking about it makes me feel perverted to feel happy after being beaten. And that human being not only took action. And it really distorted the tendency of a fierce ghost. Terrible. Too brutal. I should have known this. He should have died at home. While thinking, Shen Jian also showed a look of satisfaction. Very good, now the misunderstanding has been explained clearly. You are eating mutton, and he likes to torture himself. Doesn't the misunderstanding be explained clearly? Chewing ghost. Ah, yes, you are right. I won't argue. You're welcome. As a neighbor, please pay more attention to me in the future. I am the owner of Villa number 9. Please remember to visit me as a guest in the future. Shen Jian smiled. Hear this. The two ghosts suddenly showed horrified expressions. No. Are you still targeting us? They want to cry but have no tears. At this time, Shen Jian saw other players winking at him. Think about it? Shen Jian asked, how much do you know about Villa No 1? Villa number 1? It's terrible. That woman has been looking for her husband and son for more than 10 years. Under the increasing suppression, her grievances have completely exceeded the limit. In the past few days, we have planned to notify people from the city lord's mansion to come and deal with it. The two ghosts showed fearful expressions. How fierce? 3060. Shen Jian asked curiously. Chewing ghost? We are talking about evil, what are you talking about? It's extremely fierce. We guess that she should be close to the Ghost King. People from the city lord's mansion once told us that we should always pay attention to this woman's condition. Once we are close to the Ghost King, we must notify them immediately, otherwise the entire rebirth community will be destroyed. In her hands. The half-headed ghost also said at this time. It's easy to see. He really didn't want that woman to become the Ghost King. After listening, Shen Jian's eyes brightened even more. Then, how to make that woman become the Ghost King? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 225. Do you know how to make that woman become the Ghost King? Hear this. Half-headed ghost, chewing ghost? Brother, you are focusing on the wrong thing. Shouldn't we be asking how we can calm her grievances so that she can no longer cause trouble? How did you think of letting that resentful woman break through? The two fierce ghosts opened their mouths. He wanted to say something, but considering their current status, he swallowed his words. If they knew how to accelerate their promotion to Ghost King, they would have tried it themselves long ago. How could they be like now, being slapped by a human and forced to answer questions? If this is seen by other owners, the two brothers have no face to gain a foothold here. Trash, you don't even know this. Shen Jian cursed and stepped on him a few times. Only then did he put the two fierce ghosts into the soul-binding bag. Two fierce ghosts who were close to the top red-coated level had a pretty good harvest. Little did I know. The scene in front of them completely shocked all the players. They all stared with wide eyes. No one thought that a level 34 player could actually suppress two red-clad ghosts. What's the difference between this and a level 50 boss opening a trumpet and sneaking into the novice level? They finally understood why the cold goddess with the ID Tang Tang licked her so shamelessly. What she was licking was not the benefactor's father, but her own life. If I could get to know such a big shot, wouldn't it be a sure win if I participated in dungeons in the future? Boss, please add me as a friend. Master, give me a chance to lick you. I am confident that my dog-licking behavior will not be weaker than this woman's. All the players gathered around. There is no trace of the aloofness of Samsung players. A bunch of pure licking dogs. Even Tang Xian, who was standing next to Shen Jian, was pushed away. Tang Xian. After all, the light of a great god cannot be hidden. She sighed helplessly. Out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly glanced at the player wearing the evil ghost mask. This player seems to have a lot of backbone. He didn't turn into a licking dog. But his plan undoubtedly failed. A fierce ghost close to the level of a Ghost King was actually described by this person as a red-clothed level. His sinister intentions were obvious. Xiaomei, shouldn't you give us an explanation? Tang Xian said coldly. Hear this. The other players also looked over. Everyone looked wary. I'm sorry, I didn't know that the woman was already close to the Ghost King. The information I got was that she was in red. Otherwise, Do you think I can defeat a fierce ghost who is close to the Ghost King? Jin Mei's hoarse voice sounded. There was nothing unusual in his tone. The other players were stunned. Indeed, for a fierce ghost approaching the Ghost King, even a 4-star player would not dare to take on this mission. The only explanation is that he too was misled. Tang Xian looked at Shen Jian. Shen Jian had no expression on his face, not caring about this at all, and walked straight to Villa number 1. The others saw this. They also followed suit. The evil spirits were also following behind, with a ferocious look on their faces. Damn it! A 3-star player actually has the terrifying supernatural powers of a 4-star player. He miscalculated. He thought that as long as he had a clue about the woman's husband and son in his hand, and then used the players to consume him and make both sides lose, he would then be able to tell the clue and completely resolve the woman's resentment. Unexpectedly, a 4-star player appeared in the dungeon who pretended to be a pig and eat the tiger. But he still has a chance. That woman is a top red-clad ghost. This is a terrifying existence that only the most powerful group of 4-star players can deal with. As long as the evil ghost kills Shen Jian, he will still have the greatest credit in the final settlement. With this thought in mind, he quickly followed the team. Villa number 1. This is the largest building complex in the past life villa area. It seems to be slightly larger than Villa number 2 and Villa number 3, but there is no essential difference. The main selling point of Villa number 1 is the growing resentment. Below is the location where the raw piles were originally driven. The grievances of the evil ghosts will continue to radiate out. The further forward the villa area is, the more grievances you can enjoy. In other words, Villa number 1 is actually just a formation. Villa number 2 is the well-deserved king of the building. The smaller the number, the closer the location is to where the resentment is generated. The nourishing effect on evil spirits will be better. Shen Jian was thoughtful. What the landlady said kept coming back to my mind. The constant resentment generated by driving piles attracts evil spirits. This is the real reason why every inch of land in the villa area is precious. Only, for some reason, the evil spirit who was treated as a living stake lost control. Let the villa area of the past life become a concentration camp of grievances. The owners who move in will become unlucky. Push these thoughts down. Shen Jian began to focus on Villa number 1 in front of him. Countless players stopped. Pupils widened. There is an urge to retching. Under the moonlight, the entire Villa number 1 comes into view. Corpse. Bodies everywhere. And they are all human players. One of these players was hung from a tree by a vine. There was a headless corpse lying on the wall, but the head was dozens of meters away. Someone's eyes were gouged out and he bled to death standing there. Looking at this scene, everyone's expressions became horrified. Obviously, this place has become an alternative disposal site for human corpses. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. From his position at the door, he also saw the corpse of the player beaten to death by the burly ghost. No hesitation. Shen Jian pushed the door open and walked in. When I was thinking about how to seduce a woman. Under the dim light, a woman's figure gradually emerged. His body was thin and his clothes were as bloody as blood. His back was turned to him, looking around as if he was looking for something. All players are horrified. Cover your mouth tightly. The top red-clothed level ghost, and this chilling horror is indeed close to the Ghost King. Can this great god really deal with such a powerful ghost? They couldn't help but feel deep suspicion in their hearts, and they stood there, not daring to step forward. Sister, sis. At this time, Shen Jian took the initiative and shouted. Sister, have you met your husband and son? I have something urgent to do with them. Can you contact them for me? Female ghost in red. Just as she was about to turn around, she heard this sentence. Couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Shouldn't she be the one to ask this? You asked, then what should I ask? Sister, what's wrong with you? Why don't you speak? Are your ears not working well? Shen Jian stepped forward and patted the female ghost in red on her pelvis. Snapped. A circle of ripples shook the water. See this? Tang Xin was immediately dumbfounded. Others greet you with a pat on the shoulder, but you pat the lower part? Are you teasing a terrifying ghost who is approaching the Ghost King? Female ghost in red. She never thought that someone would be so bold and want to take advantage of one of her top red-clad ghosts. Are you looking for my husband and son? She turned around, revealing an ordinary face. It was not surprising at first glance, but upon closer inspection. Still the same. Shen Jian showed a hint of disappointment. Turns out to be the back killer. Just looking at the raised position at the back, she must be a gorgeous girl. Unexpectedly, he has the average female face of Zhang Wei. The female ghost in red stared at Shen Jian, seemingly smiling but not crying. I'm looking for them too, but they seem to have disappeared mysteriously, and I can't find them no matter how hard I look. Since you are their friend, you must have met them. Tell me quickly, where have my husband and son gone? You must know what happened to them, right? Tell me quickly, tell me quickly. The female ghost in red said, getting a little excited. The whole company looked even more twisted and crazy. The one holding Shen Jian was getting harder and harder, and there was a feeling that Shen Jian would crush his hand without telling him where he was. Shen Jian seemed not to notice, and there was no pain on his face. Instead, he began to warmly comfort him. Sister, don't be excited. Maybe your husband and son are not missing, but buried? Do you think this is possible? Think on the bright side of everything. For example, they are also buried near you and filled with cement. In a sense, you have actually found them and are very close. They are staying with you in Villa number 1, and they are still in the same home. It's just that the location of their home has changed, from the original 1-bedroom and 1 living room to a 5-star villa. When you think about it this way, do you think you've made a profit? Shen Jian made full use of his eloquence as a gold medal mediator to try to enlighten the resentful menopausal woman in front of him. And heard Shen Jian's words. The female ghost in red was originally only slightly excited, but her mood was obviously very wrong. Her eyes stared at him, unblinking, and protruded outward little by little, gradually forming a pair of penetrating dead fish eyes. What are you saying? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 226. What did you say? Rising without wind. When she heard Shen Jian's words of comfort, her whole face darkened. The thought of teasing and intimidating Shen Jian was gone. Inside the villa, the lights flickered on and off, the wind howled, and the thin willows in the yard began to dance wildly. The female ghost in red was filled with yin energy. It showed an extremely horrific death state. Her face was directly distorted, and countless ugly holes appeared on her hands and body. It was as if steel bars had penetrated her arms and limbs, fixing her in a certain place. All the players looked at the scene in front of them in astonishment. As 3-star players, it was not like they had never seen a red-clad ghost before. With the combined strength of all the players in the field, they even dared to take action against a red-level ghost. But at this moment, they were completely desperate. He even forgot to use Li Gui's supernatural power. Because they now understand how terrifying the supernatural can be when the anger of a top-notch red-clothed ghost is completely ignited. They clearly realized how fragile their own supernatural puzzle was in front of this furious ghost. It was just a piece of paper and could be torn into pieces easily. He he he. Unbridled sinister laughter echoed in the villa, and an extremely oppressive coldness completely enveloped the place. The hole in the woman's body was dripping blood, the ticking sound became more and more harsh, and large amounts of blood dyed the ground red. You are right, my husband and son have died long ago. But why did you tell me this cruel fact? I am willing to look for them here. Why do you want to break my last beauty? You deserve to die, you deserve to die. The holes in the female ghost in red became more and more obvious. These holes seem to be the source of her resentment, and they are also the stakes on the living body. She was nailed to death under Villa number 1, and her body was covered with steel bars. She could not move or breathe, and all she could feel was silence. Why do I have to endure all this? Why do all the misfortunes in this world, the deepest despair and pain in the world, come to me? What did I do wrong? You people, enjoy the happiness that I cannot experience, and then watch my pain to your heart's content. You all deserve to die, both of you. She roared, vented, and resented. There was a deep despair permeating my whole body. The white eyes were surging wildly, and with the roars, the blood seemed to have life, turned into ghost blood, and began to spread around. In the end, the entire villa was immersed in bright red. This place has become a bloody world. It's a ghost land. This fierce ghost actually has a ghost realm. Looking at the dazzling scarlet color, which seemed to foreshadow something bad, a flash of surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. What's going on in this past life villa area? I have gone through several dungeons in the past and never encountered a ghost with a ghost domain. Today is only the first day, but I met 2 top red-clad ghosts with ghost realms one after another. Is it a coincidence? While thinking, things were not quite right with the players behind him. The moment the bloody ghost realm covered them, a feeling called despair emerged in their hearts, and all kinds of gloomy thoughts kept flashing through their minds. In the past, they were unable to love, seek, and pursue without results. These frustrations amplified in their hearts. Until the only thing left in my brain is regret. In Tang Xian's mind, scenes from the first 7 copies began to flash back. At that time, if she could have been stronger and prevented her teammates from peeping into the couple's conversation, she might not have been chased by the deformed little girl, and her other teammate might not have died. This is all her fault. She should crash to death here to offset this damn guilt. Tang Xian looked horrified. She obviously had control over her body, but the guilt in her heart kept coming, torturing her, and she actually had the idea of committing suicide. The supernatural powers of the top red-clothed ghosts are actually so terrifying. It is unimaginable that if such a ghost appeared in the real world, it would lead to tens of thousands of people committing suicide. That was absolutely an unprecedented disaster. Shen Jian glanced at it. There is indeed something about this top-notch red-clad ghost. The ghost domain plus its own supernatural amplification successfully made him think of bad things. He regrets it. When he was experiencing the second horror game copy, that is, the supernatural funeral parlor copy, he should not have answered the funeral parlor owner's questions so quickly. Instead, he would have hung him up and beaten him, leading to the owner of the bloody paper shop behind the supernatural funeral parlor. That was an abyss-level ghost. He missed it. He regrets it so much. Jian's Haizi also wanted to regret it. Shen Jian's face looked uncertain. He lowered his head, annoyance flashing across his face. Seeing this, the female ghost in red stared at Shen Jian and let out a harsh laugh, just sink in the whirlpool of regret. Only when you have experienced everything I have experienced, will you know what pain is. It's like a demonic sound penetrating my ears. All the players covered their heads, their faces constantly distorted, their expressions extremely painful, and all the tiny negative emotions were infinitely amplified at this moment. Some players can no longer control their pace. In the struggle, he walked towards the willow tree. Sudden. Shen Jian raised his head. His eyes became gloomier little by little. I can't be the only one who feels so remorseful. You, too, have to go through the same pain as me. When you've been through what I've been through, you may not be able to smile that much. Female ghost in red? These words feel so familiar. Her high-pitched laughter stopped suddenly. His face stiffened. Damn it, if others regret it, they will commit suicide. If you regret it, you have to bring others to experience it with you. You should be in my position. You're worse than me when you're riding a horse. I'm in so much pain and regret that I didn't hang that idiot up and beat him up. Now, I can finally make up for my regrets. Shen Jian said. 4 soul-enchanting chains have been taken out from his body. The chain moved. The female ghost in red was immediately entangled. 4 chains, locking the limbs. He lifted it up and arranged it into a big character. Then, Shen Jian took off the ghost rope from his wrist again. Stretch out. Give it a flick. A sound like firecrackers sounded out of thin air in the villa. Female ghost in red? Looking at Shen Jian holding a whip, she was frightened in her heart. What's the situation? Why is this reversed? She hasn't reacted yet. The female ghost in red struggled desperately. But the harder she struggled, the more powerful the soul-enchanting chain became. It was so hot that she screamed repeatedly. Don't dare to move any more. My pain is greater than yours. Shen Jian laughed sinisterly and seemed to be still in this unspeakable regret. He used the ghost rope in his hand as a whip and swung it at the female ghost in red. Snapped. The crackling sound was like a firecracker hitting the female ghost's chest. Ah! The female ghost in red screamed. This whip does not hurt very much, but it is extremely insulting. She roared crazily in her heart, what you call regret is that you didn't do such a perverted thing. Then your regret is really painful and desperate. Snap, snap, snap. The sounds of whippings continued to echo in the villa. An unbearable sound was heard, and an unsightly scene was staged. And his limbs were strangled by soul-enchanting chains. The ghost realm cast by the female ghost in red has long since dissipated, and the supernatural power has also disappeared. The player who was almost forced to commit suicide collapsed on the ground, looking at the hanging willow branch he had made. His breathing was rapid and his face was extremely pale. Just a little bit. Just a few seconds away, their lives were about to end together. Who is it? Who is turning the tide? Snap, snap, snap. Ah! Just when they were forced to wonder how the battle was going, an unpleasant voice sounded in their ears. The sound of whipping and the pain were mixed with a little scream of excitement. It reminded them of some kind of action movie. Grass. Who the hell is watching a movie at this time? The player turned around in shock. After seeing everything in front of him clearly, his pupils widened. Shen Jian was seen waving a blood-stained ghost rope, and kept pulling it towards a female ghost who was hanging in the air. And this female ghost is the top red-clad ghost that almost caused all the players to commit suicide. Players. Too grassy. Hang up a top red-clad devil and whip him. And if you just listen to the sound and don't read the content, you would think that you have arrived at a certain filming location and are filming a heavy-flavored ghost movie. All the players watched all this in a daze. The inner admiration for Shen Jian has reached its peak. At this time, the devil wearing a ghost mask pulled off the mask, revealing an ugly face that was severely burned. He scolded, Wang Fang, if you still want to know the clues about your husband and son, kill him immediately. Wang Fang is exactly the name of this top red-clad fierce ghost. He did not expect that the top red-clad ghost was no match for this player, and was completely suppressed. But he was unwilling to do so. Resolving this woman's resentment is the ultimate goal of a staged dungeon mission. Starting from the 2-star dungeon, he successively entered the dungeons related to the woman's husband and son to search for the truth. Seeing that the harvest was about to come, how could he be willing to have the results stolen by others? At this time, he was like a gambler, trying to win back all the honors with his last bargaining chip. Hear this. The female ghost in red who was immersed in this unspeakable scream suddenly burst out with an even stronger yin qi. My husband, my son, where are you? It's so miserable, I'm so miserable, I'm so miserable. The demon's words rekindled the overwhelming resentment of the female ghost in red who had completely given up her resistance. The yin energy in her body rose again and again, and she directly passed a certain threshold and reached a new stage. Shen Jian's pupils widened. Half-step Ghost King. This female ghost in red has jumped directly from the top ghost to the half-step Ghost King level, and her level of terror is almost on the same level as the son of the river god. Seeing Shen Jian's shocked expression, the female ghost in red grinned with white teeth, laughing horribly. He, human, let me suffer such humiliation, you are dead. I want you to be in complete despair and regret why you didn't choose to commit suicide at that time. A few chains are just trying to trap me, a half-step Ghost King. A cold and eerie roar echoed. All the players present were cold, trembling, and did not dare to move. Because they could clearly feel that an invisible gaze in the air was staring at them maliciously. That was the death stare of the female ghost in red after she broke through. The devil also laughed. He made the right bet. This fierce ghost actually advanced. Wang Fang, you see clearly, I have the tokens of your husband and son on me. If you kill these people, I will tell you everything. Human, I hope you are not lying to me, otherwise your end will be worse than this humans, but for now, I'll let you taste despair first. The female ghost in red glanced at 11 May, and then slowly cast her sinister gaze on Shen Jian. A slight exertion. The four chains surrounding her would shake uncontrollably, as if they would break completely in the next second. Haha, human, your ghost weapon can't save you anymore. Cut it off. The female ghost in red screamed sharply. Use your limbs thoroughly. Once earned. The imagined scene of the chain breaking as soon as it collapsed did not appear. Female ghost in red. She pushed harder, kept pushing, and kept pushing. She panicked. What happened? It was obvious that she was filled with resentment and her terror level had reached a new level. She was only one step away from becoming the Ghost King. With such strength, how could she not be able to break free from four garbage chains? Your chain must be gold-plated. Far away. The smiling face also froze. Have you finished trying it? At this time, Shen Jian raised his head and spoke in a gentle tone. If you haven't finished trying, you can continue to try. That one over there, you can also continue to talk to her and see if you can get her to advance again. She is just one step away from becoming the Ghost King. Don't give up. Believe in yourself. Shen Jian looked excited. The tone was full of encouragement. Female ghost in red. Demon. Everyone was stunned. When the demon came to his senses, extreme panic showed on his face. What a joke. This monster. How on earth did he get into the Samsung copy? This is definitely the pinnacle ghost master among 4-star players. He looked resentful, but his movements were not slow at all, and he took out a yellowed stamp from his body. This is a copy skip ticket. Only applicable to Star Rising copies. Skipping this dungeon means that he will enter the 4-star dungeon next time without any gains. The mortality rate is as high as over 90%. But compared to the current death situation, using dungeon skip coupons is undoubtedly the best choice. He tore open the stamp. At this distance, no matter how terrifying the ghost puzzle Shen Jian possesses, it cannot affect him. This is what he thought before the bright arc of electricity hit him. Until he saw Shen Jian raise a hand and said quietly with a cold expression, "La Fate Xiao." Crackling. A bright arc of electricity instantly penetrated his chest, leaving a huge hole. Court death. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. He turned around and looked at the female ghost in red with a smile. I've clarified your situation a little bit. It seems that as long as you generate enough resentment, you can advance again. Have you tried caning? Have you tried electroshock therapy? GGG, think about it carefully. Your husband and your son are still waiting for you. Do you want to stay here? Strange laughter. Shenjian released an electric arc. Stop being angry. The limit of resentment has been reached. It's really full. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 227. In the quiet villa. Sizzle. All the players looked at the scene in front of them in shock. After the evil spirit turned against the enemy and used traces of the other party's husband and son to stimulate the red ghost to advance again, many players were in despair. The woman who is the top red-clad fierce ghost has been difficult for all players to resist, and they were almost completely wiped out here. Now, the woman once again breeds endless resentment, and the level of terror has been further improved. In their view, everything is over. Once the female ghost in red escapes, the first step is to brutally kill them all. But they never expected it. The situation has not been reversed, and the female ghost in red, whose level of terror has been further improved, is still unable to break free from the shackles of the 4 chains. The demon who tried to escape from the dungeon to renew his life was also hit by a palm thunder in the chest. Even the ghosts and supernatural beings in his body could no longer help him to survive, and he fell directly to the ground. Gilug. All players' throats rolled. Even Tang Xian, who thought he had a certain understanding of the great god, was stunned at this moment. Thunder in the palm, this is such a supernatural ability. Are you sure it's not a superpower? After all, Jin Mei is a 3-star player who is close to a 4-star dungeon, and the number of ghosts in his body is only 2, if not 3. But in front of this bright arc of electricity, Li Gui was stunned to death. Tang Xian could not conceal her inner shock. Every time she thought she had a certain understanding of the great god would refresh her definition of strength. Sizzle. A crackling sound echoed. Everyone looked at Shen Jian at this moment, looking like the devil who destroyed the world. In front of everyone, he insulted the enemies who dared to resist him, with an excited look on his face. A group of players had a weird idea. Obviously they are the righteous side, but somehow they feel more like villains. And saw Shen Jian killing the devil. The female ghost in red was completely desperate. The death of Jin Mei means that she will no longer have any clues about her husband and son. Her head hung down and she murmured unconsciously, why is it like this again? Everyone is bullying me, so all the suffering comes to me, and all the torture refuses to let me go. I'm in so much pain. I'm so desperate. Her resentment became heavier and heavier, the expression on her face became more and more crazy, and the cold aura around her started to rise again at this moment. Blood dripped, and the entire villa seemed to be turning back into a blood-red world. Despair? Pain. Hearing this, Shen Jian activated the professionalism of a gold medal mediator. Don't be afraid, it's very difficult now, but it might be even worse tomorrow. The despair and pain at this moment may be the happiness you strive for in the future. Female ghost in red. The madness on her face gradually solidified. When it comes to being a ghost, you are better than me. If you were a ghost, I would never appear within 30 kilometers of you. This time, the female ghost in red seemed to be completely desperate. After the resentment that keeps growing reaches a certain critical value, it remains unchanged. Shen Jian felt a little regretful. If the other party is given a few more years, she may really be able to advance to the Ghost King. But now, time is too short. After a while, Shen Jian stopped. Failed. It is still unrealistic to want a fierce ghost to explode twice in a row. The most important thing is that he killed the demon and cut off the last remaining hope of the female ghost in red. Otherwise, there may really be hope for another explosion. Shen Jian sighed. There is no way to kill demons. The opponent has already used the dungeon skip coupon. If he moves any slower, the trouble-making rat will escape. He never likes enemies plotting against him. Killing is the easiest decision. Shen Jian stuffed the female ghost in red, who was already overexcited, into a sack, and returned in despair. Side mission: investigate the truth behind the deceased community and resolve the grievances of the ghosts. Completed. Calculating task proportion. Total proportion, 100%. Note: players who obtain 100% of the total proportion, trigger hidden achievements, and will receive special rewards when the instance is settled. It was already 11 p.m. Shen Jian opened the door and returned to Villa number 9. Looking at the settlement of the task above, he withdrew his gaze. There was also a smile on his face. By solving the source of resentment behind the past life community, half of his purpose of coming here was solved. Next, as long as the owners who have been affected by their grievances and their families have become unhappy are resolved one by one, the deceased community can completely return to normal. By the time his mission is complete, something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 228. This day. It was the day when Xiao Shui, the coffin ghost, decided to execute the plan. On the dinner table, the family of 4 was enjoying themselves. Everyone has their own agenda. Qin Lu, a needlework ghost, is a mother of 2 children and a wife. At this time, she looked away from her husband. The coffin ghost Xiao Shui is the eldest sister in the family. A sickly and twisted smile flashed across her face at this moment. Intentionally or unintentionally, her eyes were directed at the plate in the hands of the burly ghost. It was obvious that she had done something to that plate of food. At the same time, he winked at Shen Jian. This means that a general attack is about to be launched. The burly ghost, the head of the family, is planning how to expose Shen Jian's human identity. In the past few days, he has found that his wife's relationship with this human being is getting closer and closer. Despite accommodating this human being in everything, now even his words are a little absent-minded, and he only thinks about staying with this fake son. He knew he couldn't delay it any longer. Just thinking about it, he suddenly realized something was wrong. The yin qi in the body seems to be suppressed, and it seems to be blocked. The supernatural power is also being weakened. His expression changed greatly. Boom. The burly ghost angrily lifted the dining table and said angrily, "Human, you are looking for death. Do you think that because I gave in, you will have the illusion that I am easy to bully?" Obviously, he attributed the matter to Shen Jian. "Xiao, what are you crazy about? That's your son. Kill one and show me." The needlework ghost is not to be outdone. Women are short-sighted. Please open your eyes and see clearly whether this is your son. Your son has died a long time ago. I have been acting here with you for several days. I have long wanted to kill this damned man humanity. The burly ghost said grimly. He looked at Shen Jian with a distorted expression. "Human, you are very brave. You dare to attack me directly. Are you ready to be beaten to death by me?" Shen Jian. Before he opened his mouth, the coffin ghost had already said. "Then are you prepared for your mother to know the truth?" Burly ghost. Seeing that it was his daughter who was speaking, he was stunned for a moment. Then he reacted. The pupils shrank. You saw it? This is impossible. How old were you at the time? How could you have resisted showing your flaws? If I hadn't pretended to be more like him, would I have been beaten to death by you back then? Use the butcher knife in your room to dismember my brother piece by piece, and then throw him into the wilderness. I'm your dad. The burly ghost's tone became increasingly gloomy. The coffin ghost showed a sick smile. Is it like you, a father who beat his brother to death over a disagreement, blamed it on his mother, and made her cry all day long? Do you even have the thought of killing your wife and daughter? If I hadn't hidden it well back then, would you have killed me? You bitch, how dare you plot against me? The burly ghost was furious and punched his daughter. Mom, do it? Don't you understand? You didn't lose your brother back then. That was a lie. He had really been beaten to death by this man. Do you want to be killed by him a second time? Shouted the coffin ghost. At this time, Chin Lu, the needlework ghost, finally reacted. Bloody tears suddenly flowed from her eyes, and her entire face became distorted. Xiao, you are so cruel. The needlework ghost picked up the kitchen knife and rushed forward regardless. Very good. I didn't expect you to turn against me. Very good. I originally planned to tell you some good news today, but now it seems that it is only good news for me. The burly ghost took out a large butchering knife, and terrifying supernatural fluctuations swept out. Rows of teeth appeared on the large butchering knife. It seemed to have come to life and turned into a different kind of supernatural being. Top red. The coffin ghost's expression changed drastically. You guessed it right, I've been promoted to the top red shirt. The burly ghost grinned. The ferocious laughter also sounded from the slaughtering knife. The sound was very crazy, as if countless innocent souls were laughing in pain. The coffin ghost collapsed to the ground. She was just a Tsingy level ghost, unable to withstand the supernatural oppression released by the top red clothes. The all-pervasive madness poured into her head, making her eyes turn blood red, and her emotions were dominated by rage. It's over. If she doesn't advance sooner, she won't advance later, but she advances at such a critical moment. The supernatural props she brought back can only suppress the red-level ghosts, and are not very effective against the top red shirts. It may be able to suppress 10% or 20% of the opponent's supernatural power, but the remaining 70% to 80% can still kill the red-clad ghost head-on. There is no chance of winning by relying on the mother alone. And that human being was just an auxiliary like her, and had no chance of winning. This time, it's completely over. She fell into despair. She didn't regret her behavior, but she just didn't expect that the man was so lucky to be able to turn around this situation. At this time, the burly ghost's ferocious laughter became even more ferocious. Little bitch, I didn't expect that you would dare to deal with me, and you, Chin Lu, only one son died. We can have several more, just as compensation for me accidentally killing my son. He glanced at his daughter and wife. Finally it fell on Shenjian. As for you human, this game is over. Shenjian's face was expressionless. It's time to end. He looked away from the game's chat interface. At the end of the chat interface, it stays on a message. A group of people just came to the rebirth community. They are making a big show. I suspect that these are the people from the City Lord's mansion that you mentioned, great God. They come with bad intentions. The leader seems to be a ghost king. I dare not approach them. Shenjian withdrew his gaze. Said to himself. Lefatai. A purple thunderbolt blasted out quickly like a plasma thunder column. Burly ghost. His eyes widened. Looking at the purple plasma blasted out, a ferocious face was almost petrified, and his heart was gradually overwhelmed by terrifying emotions. Use this kind of special effect to fight against the Emperor. I just said a few harsh words. There's no need to be so cruel. The burly ghost screamed in fear, raised his slaughtering knife and held it horizontally in front of him. The rows of teeth on the blade also trembled, and the fear reached the extreme. Boom! Purple plasma exploded, and everything in a straight line of the room was wiped out. Everyone could see that a bright purple light shot out from the direction of Villa number 9, and a wall exploded. A charred figure fell to the ground. The supernatural power has been completely extinguished, and countless blade fragments are still scattered on the ground. Shenjian. I didn't expect Tai to be so powerful. It would be a bit wasteful to use it to deal with a top-notch red-clothed ghost. But the effect is good. That's it? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 229. A long time. Qin Lu, the needlework ghost, abruptly changed the subject. Is he dead? As if nothing happened, Shenjian came to the burly ghost and observed the powerful ghost. Le Fataxiaole is a palm thunder in the traditional sense. It is powerful, fast, and almost instantaneous. Le Fatai thunder, a variant of palm thunder, sacrifices speed to maximize the volts of thunder and lightning. The thunder and lightning changes from a normal white arc to purple plasma. The power is almost 5 times that of Taxiaole. Not to mention a top red one, even if a ghost king comes, as long as Tai hits, it will only die. In Shenjian's perception, the supernatural power of the burly ghost has completely dissipated. According to the rule that supernatural beings cannot die but can only freeze, this burly ghost has fallen into a complete freeze. It will take more than 300 years to revive again. 300 years later, I'm afraid this ghost body would have decayed long ago. Even if he recovers again, let alone the top red level strength, whether he can maintain the supernatural powers of the white level 1 is a problem. Shenjian clicked his tongue. The blast was too hard. When it becomes like this, it is no different from a pile of garbage. Totally dead. Shenjian nodded. The words fell. The scarlet panel reappeared. It was detected that the player completed the hidden task of the past life community and received a special reward, the past life community administrator. It has been detected that the player owns a large supernatural copy, the Villa of the Past, and is the master of the past. The side mission is completed ahead of schedule. Side mission, become the head of the family, completed. Shenjian was slightly startled. Suddenly, the focus of the side mission of becoming the head of the family has never been on the burly ghost, but on frightening other owners of the community who have passed away. The identity of the administrator of the past life community and the identity of the owner of the past life are enough to make the owners of this villa area in awe. Naturally, no one would want to bully the mother and daughter. When did this thriller game become so smart? Or are you worried that he will continue to attack the evil ghosts here, so you settle the settlement with him early? Shenjian narrowed his eyes. At this time, the needlework ghost had already come to him and helped him brush away the dust on his clothes. His eyes were filled with rippling water, and on the basis of kindness, there was a bit more seductive charm. It's as if even the mind is about to be taken away. You go and take a rest. Let me handle this. If we don't repair this wall as soon as possible, we will become monkeys and let others watch. Qin Lu, the needlework ghost, pursed her lips and smiled, then turned and left gracefully. The back is swaying, looking charming. Shenjian suddenly thought of a style of clothes that would definitely suit the other party. That is the Cheongsam. It's a pity that he doesn't have it here. It's a bit of a pity. Coffin ghost Xiao Shui blinked her eyes and saw Shenjian's scorching eyes. She couldn't help but come closer and said jokingly, "Smelly brother likes mature people. Mature style is good, but youthfulness is even better. Brother, don't you understand this? Or are you thinking of something more rude?" Shenjian. You are really the roundworm in my stomach. Shenjian was deep in thought, thinking about the method of getting the best of both worlds. There must be a way to have both ends of the world, but he hasn't thought of it yet. Don't make trouble, I'm going to solve another matter. Shen Jian said. Also left home. It was broad daylight and the wall was broken, so he couldn't do much at home. If you want to do anything else, you have to wait until night. Taking advantage of this time, he wanted to solve another major issue. A deserted meadow. All 6 players gather. Tang Xin was shocked. Master, I already have the information you want. Several of our owners are engaged in different industries. From listening around, we also learned a lot about the Nanjiang District City Lord's Mansion. The Nanjiang District City Lord's Mansion is the largest and strongest supernatural place in our area. There are 3 law enforcement teams outside, and the Deputy City Lord and the City Lord's wife are inside, plus a Supreme Ruler of Nanjiang District, which together form the City Lord's Mansion, a large supernatural place. The people who appeared in the past life community this time were some members of the 3rd Law Enforcement Team. The leader of the team was the captain of the 3rd Law Enforcement Team, a ghost at the level of a Ghost King, known as the Blood Corpse King, with ominous strength. But it is said that every captain of the law enforcement team possesses terrifying supernatural powers that rival more than 2 Ghost Kings. The purpose of their coming here is to investigate the female ghost in red in Villa Number 1. Now, they are investigating in Villa Number 1. They seem to have some kind of weird supernatural power that can be traced back to the real murderer. All the players spoke to each other to complete the information. There was a bit of worry on his face. After all, they were also in Villa Number 1. Although he didn't take any action, he was almost killed by the group. But no one knows what kind of supernatural powers these ghosts of the law enforcement team have. If they are traced out, there will be no other way but to wait for death. Today is the last day for copies. As long as they get through it safely, they can settle the game and leave here completely. But the arrival of the law enforcement team of the City Lord's Mansion is like a sword of Damocles hanging over everyone's head, and they don't know when it will fall. A top-notch red-clad fierce ghost almost wiped out their entire group. Now there is another Ghost King. Apart from praying, the only thing they can do is help Shen Jian collect some trivial information. Tang Xin on the side looked suspicious. Looking at Shen Jian, who was slightly excited, she suddenly thought of the reason why Shen Jian asked her to investigate. No way. She swallowed. Great God, that's someone from the City Lord's Mansion. Shen Jian glanced at her. Knowing that this shady candidate with some understanding has understood his thoughts. Then he looked weird and said, "So, hear this." Tang Xin said with difficulty, "If we touch them, it means that the safe newcomer area will become a dangerous place. It's smaller, the pattern is smaller. If I don't tell you, if you don't tell me, who will know all this?" Shen Jian laughed strangely. A Ghost King and a law enforcement team composed entirely of fierce ghosts. The temptation is too great. He chose to come to the special copy just for this reason. How could he not take action because he was afraid of offending the City Lord's palace? Even he would rather see the City Lord's Mansion sending them one after another. In this way, he can directly replace the City Lord's Mansion. Let Nanjiang District become the first secluded city in the underworld. The horror game invades the Yang world and wants to turn the human world into a second ghost town, invading the realm of the underworld. It is reasonable for the underworld to invade the horror world and turn Nanjiang District into the capital city. Love is the first move in the thriller game. Yuli, as long as they are evil ghosts, they are within the scope of arrest by the underworld. He is satisfied with both emotion and reason. He stood on the moral high ground. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 230. At the same time. Inside Villa Number 1. A large number of fierce ghosts gathered here and started tracing. A terrifying ghost wearing ancient armor with scarlet arms exposed was standing there. His eyes were dark, and he was staring straight into it, as if he had fallen into the darkest abyss, making people shudder. He is the captain of the 3rd Law Enforcement Team, a Ghost King-level ghost who is respectfully known as the Blood Corpse King. Lord Blood Corpse, the traces of the supernatural are still very obvious. The battle will not take place more than half a day from here. Continuing to trace back, I want to know who stole the Ghost King seedling that the City Lord's mansion worked so hard to cultivate. This matter has alarmed the Deputy City Lord, so we must trace it out. The Blood Corpse King said coldly. A sinister smile came from his mouth, which was creepy. Yes. Soon. In Villa Number 1, rows of footprints appeared from the deepest ghost realm. These footprints were male and female, some were large and some were small, and under the manifestation of the ghost realm, the depth of these footprints also varied. Some of the footprints are light black, and some of the soles are pitch black. Among them, there was a slender footprint as black as ink, just like a trace in the ink. Sir, the female ghost in red has advanced ahead of the originally planned time. She has already reached the half-step Ghost King level. She is probably only within half a year of the Ghost King level. But the strange thing is that except for her half-step Ghost King, the other ghosts around her seem to be only between the white-clothed level and the green-clothed level. Logically speaking, they cannot pose a threat to the red-clothed female ghost. The following Ligui was very puzzled. How could a group of white-clad and green-clad level pose a threat to a half-step Ghost King? How many people came here at that time? 7 people, one of them has footprints in nothingness. He should be dead. Can you find the owner of these footprints? Yes, but the footprints need to be within 100 meters to track the person involved. Is it like this? The Blood Corpse King pointed at 2 pairs of footprints. The pair were extremely clean, not stained by any magazines, and looked like white jade. The soles of a pair of feet are pitch black, and with every step they take, a portion of the soles of the feet will turn black. A strange scene appeared between the 2 pairs of footprints. Move around out of thin air. Go to the door of the villa. It was like an invisible being was walking. Weird and penetrating. See this? The investigating Ligui subconsciously nodded, yes, as long as the owner of the footprints is within 100 meters, they will return. The sound stopped suddenly. The footprints had a supernatural reaction. In other words, the 2 murderers returned to the scene of the crime. This is too arrogant. You must know that they have no hidden traces. Anyone who is interested can tell at a glance that they are from the City Lord's palace. However, the other party is still bold enough to dare to come to the scene of the crime even though they know that they are a law enforcement team. This is a complete disregard of law enforcement. The majesty of the team is in his eyes. Very good. It seems that the 3rd law enforcement team has not been outside for too long. Others have forgotten the prestige of the law enforcement team. Master, if you take this step, there is no turning back. Although no one saw it, the people in the City Lord's mansion are not fools. With how dazzling you are, Master, it is only a matter of time before you are discovered. Tang Xian wanted to say high profile, but after thinking about it, she worded it strictly. Xiao Tang, you still don't understand. Do you find that you only use 1 or 2 methods over and over again? By following ghosts, you can actually learn a lot of things, such as the method of salvation. In this aspect of research, ghosts rarely let people have been disappointed. Sometimes when faced with a fierce ghost and you have trouble making a choice, you can recall the ghosts you have overcome and find inspiration from them. Hear this. Tang Xian looked serious, speaking from the experience of a great master. This is the key point, write it down. At this time. Da-da-da. Footsteps sounded. 2 footprints stepped in the air, walking towards them. Tang Xian's expression changed drastically. The other party was so decisive that he launched a supernatural attack without even distinguishing whether he was an enemy or a friend. Now the battle is inevitable. Her face was full of alertness, and the solace of her feet had been raised unconsciously. But was stopped by Shen Jian. Great God! She was a little anxious. According to her experience, once the footprints overlapped with her own, the fatal supernatural power would erupt, killing her on the spot. Shen Jian gave her a reassuring expression, as if to say, even if you are not dead, I can pick you up even if you are dead. Tang Xian. You think you are the king of hell. And kill people. But seeing Shen Jian's expression, she lowered her guard and allowed the footprints to overlap with hers little by little. Nothing happened. It seemed like it was just a false alarm. When Tang Xian was confused, Shen Jian had already opened the door of the villa. Returned to villa number 1 for the second time. Tang Xian followed closely behind. The scene before my eyes. Her heart almost stopped. A headless woman in white, an old man in Tang Dynasty clothing, an old lady with a cat-like face, a little girl holding a rag doll. One after another, there are terrifying figures, pale skin, twisted limbs, terrifying eyes full of hatred, and a cold expression that seems to choose people to eat. Depressing, cold, scary, and weird. The cold and gloomy aura they exuded was almost solidified, completely filling the large courtyard of the villa. Under the infinite yin energy, it seemed to support a terrifying ghost realm, making people feel intimidated just by looking at it, and they had no courage at all. Step inside. Especially the armored blood corpse at the head had a pair of black eyes, and the terrifying supernatural being formed by a ghost was actually more terrifying than all the ghosts present. Ghost King. This is definitely the captain of the 3rd Law Enforcement Team in the Intelligence, the Blood Corpse King. Tang Xian drooled like crazy. The 3rd Law Enforcement Team of the City Lord's Mansion is composed of a Ghost King, 5 red-clothed ghosts, and several ghosts with special supernatural powers. The lineup is so powerful that it has far surpassed the entire background of a 3-star supernatural place. This is not so much a law enforcement team as it is a 3-star supernatural copy coming out. Is this kind of power really something a normal person can take on? Countless confusions popped up in Tang Xian's mind. And at this moment, as the two people walked in, pairs of stern eyes looked over. Tang Xian felt like she was in a hell on earth. I was so nervous that I could hardly breathe, and my heart was gradually replaced by horror. She knew that after experiencing this incident, the next time she entered a 3-star dungeon or even a 4-star dungeon, she would no longer have any fear and could face these terrifying ghosts while turning a blind eye. But, can she really go back alive? Human? How dare you walk in alone? The Blood Corpse King stared at Shen Jian with a sinister smile. The depth of the footprints means the opponent's level of terror. There were 2 pairs of footprints, one pair of soles were pitch black, and black covered almost a quarter of the footprints. According to the level of terror, the human woman could easily reach the Xingyi level and was not to be feared. The most important thing is the owner of the pair of white jade footprints. He could clearly smell the ghost jigsaw scent on the human man, but there was no trace left on the footprints, just like a normal person who had not been affected by the supernatural. This was extremely unreasonable. This means that although the human man controlled the ghost puzzle, he was not eroded by the supernatural in the slightest. He completely controlled the ghost, instead of the ghost gradually reviving in his body. He didn't know what kind of ability this required. But he knew that that human being was weird. The disappearance of the female ghost in red who was kept in Villa number 1 by the City Lord's mansion is absolutely inseparable from this person. Haha, I'm afraid half a person will come in and scare you to death. Shen Jian's eyes moved. The corners of his mouth widened. A ghost king who is slightly inferior to the river goddess, 5 senior red-shirted ones who are close to the top red-shirted ones, and a number of green-clothed ones with special supernatural powers. Although the harvest is not as good as the one at Ice and Snow Castle, it is undoubtedly a great harvest. Hear this. The Blood Corpse King's expression froze. You are a sharp-tongued person. You humans only have this few means left. If you hand over the living stakes, I can consider putting in a good word for you to the Deputy City Lord. In the future, you may have the opportunity to join the law enforcement team and enjoy the praise of everyone. If you don't pay. The words have not yet fallen. Shen Jian's lips were already trembling. No. Blood Corpse King. No. It's in line with the process for you to struggle a little and make suggestions to us, and then we reject your proposal in a joking manner. Your straightforward way of speaking is really a breath of fresh air. The Blood Corpse King was silent for a moment. Then, with a sinister look in his eyes, he said, "Do it, use the most cruel method, torture him bit by bit until he dies, peel off his flesh and blood, I want to swallow them all." Meow, old lady, my hands have been itchy for a long time. Brother, my doll is broken, can you help me repair it? He, I'm a young kid, I don't know how high the sky is, so let me try you, old man. My head is rotten, who can lend me a head? There were horrifying sharp sounds and strange figures, all approaching. The pale faces were full of jests and twisted, sick expressions. Even a 4-star player standing here would break out in a cold sweat and turn around and run away. But Shen Jian is different. He also showed the same strange smile as the fierce ghosts, and his face even flushed with excitement. That smile made Tang Xian tremble. I always feel that the great god is far more perverted than these ghosts. Especially talking, it's more like, he, I just saw you tracing your footprints. I thought about it and it seems that you also left footprints here before you came in. Laughing strangely, Shen Jian took out a red spear. The style is not unusual, it is the most common standard long gun. The only difference is the evil spirit permeating the top. Underworld weapon Rakshasa spear, exclusive to Mamian. Introduce : The moment he held the spear, rows of footprints appeared all over Shen Jian. These footprints are messy, but each one points directly to the person. It's like there is an invisible thread connecting everything. Mamian's exclusive Rakshasa gun can hit the target according to the footprint medium. At this time, Shen Jian stepped on the footsteps of the old man in Tangfu. A blurry figure appeared in front of him. This moment, the old man Shen Jian's face froze as he smiled ferociously and said, "Let's try it." "Let's try it." Shen Jian's face froze, as if locked by a terrifying will, and the source was the red spear held tightly in Shen Jian's hand. Seeing that Shen Jian was about to stab the gun, the old man in Tangfu screamed desperately, "No, stop quickly." He had a premonition that with this shot, he would die. However, it's still too late. Shen Jian's unstoppable shot had already stabbed the figure in front of him. At the same time, a huge penetrating wound appeared on the chest of the old man in Tangfu, who was screaming in terror. The old man fell straight down. No more supernatural reactions. Blood Corpse King. Ghosts. The surviving ghosts looked shocked. What's the situation? That human obviously didn't stab anything, so why did the old man die? There's weirdness in this. Be careful, this has something to do with the gun in his hand. Each and every one of the fierce ghosts was in shock. The amusement in his eyes completely disappeared. The old man in Tangfu, who was second only to the captain of the 3rd law enforcement team in terms of terror, was actually killed without any warning and fell into a state of panic. This is no different from directly killing a red-clothed level ghost. If that human can kill the old man in Tangfu, he can kill them. For a while, all evil spirits are in danger. Jajaja, old man, Your hands are itchy, right? You're restless, right? I'll send you to a place where you need to use your hands. I'm sure I can cure your itchy hands. Shen Jian took a step forward and stepped on the footprints of the cat-faced old lady. Another illusory figure emerged. The Rakshasa gun has the power to launch a fatal attack when it steps on a footprint, but two conditions must be met. First, the footprints must be within 7 days. Secondly, the owner of the footprints cannot leave sight. If these 2 points are achieved, even the footprints left by the Ghost King can be killed as long as they can be stepped on. There is no reason to kill. This is how terrifying the Rakshasa gun is. Laugh. The second shot came out. The cat-faced old lady also met the fate of the old man in tang suit. He fell to the ground, completely without any supernatural powers. What, the cat-faced old lady is dead too? He's so decisive. There seems to be no restriction on the use of ghost weapons. You can release them at will. The faces of the fierce ghosts became increasingly grim. The human being in front of him not only possessed weird and unpredictable supernatural powers, but also had a sharp and frightening vision. He killed the strongest old man in tang suit among them, and then the cat-faced old lady who was the most difficult to deal with. Killing these two people will greatly reduce the strength of their law enforcement team. We may not be his match. This thought flashed through the minds of the other 3 red-clad fierce ghosts. Their level of terror is much weaker than that of the 2 old men, not to mention that supernatural attacks also require close range to be launched. However, in front of that weird spear, who dares to say that it can get close? They felt very unsure. They all looked at the Blood Corpse King. At the moment, the only one who can resist or even kill this human being is their captain. The Blood Corpse King's face darkened. A team of law enforcers was unable to stop a human being, and was even too frightened to resist. It is simply a disgrace to the law enforcement team. If we don't take action, the dignity of the law enforcement team will be trampled under our feet. The Blood Corpse King stood up. His whole body was scarlet, his arms were dripping with blood, even his armor was dyed red, and he exuded an indescribable weird aura. Human, you. This shot is for you. Before the Blood Corpse King finished speaking, Shen Jian's voice was heard. Then, the fatal supernatural power erupted from a spear stabbed him. He bowed his head stiffly. The chest attached to the armor was empty, and it had been penetrated. Ghosts. Grass. The red-clad fierce ghost has 1 shot, and the Ghost King also has 1 shot, right? What about the law of conservation of energy? Was he eaten by you? At this moment, the souls of all the evil ghosts emerged. Totally terrified. 1 shot of a red-coated level was enough to shock the entire audience. Now let's kill the Ghost King with 1 shot. How the hell could this be true? If you don't mess up your position, the captain won't die so easily. Didn't you see that the captain's feet are covered with ghost blood? That's the real body, why are you panicking? The 3 red-clothed ghosts had frightened eyes, but they still managed to remain calm. How could a Ghost King be so easy to kill? See this. Shen Jian also raised his eyebrows. This Blood Corpse King really accidentally avoided the attack conditions of the Rakshasa spear. Human, I am already in the state of ghost blood. You can kill my physical body, but you cannot destroy my true body. The Blood Corpse King's voice was sinister, with a hint of horror in his tone. He couldn't even resist this hookate spear. Shouldn't this kind of unreasonable supernatural power only appear in ghosts above the abyss level? How does a gun do that? He. Shen Jian laughed silently. He took out a ghost weapon from his body again. Underworld weapon 3-pronged fork, exclusive for bullhead. Introduce : Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 231. The three-pronged fork is the exclusive weapon of the bullhead. Comes with its own ghost realm. It can forcefully manifest all illusory objects, and with the Rakshasa gun on the horse's face, it is unstoppable. This is also the reason why the cow head and horse noodles are always together. With the two great yin commanders combined, the Ghost King can be killed and the ghosts and gods can be killed. Boom! Shen Jian held a three-pointed steel fork in his left hand and hammered the ground, with sonorous vibrations and ripples blowing. The temperature of the entire Villa number 1 dropped suddenly, mist rose from the ground, and there was faint ice slag condensation on the willow branches and leaves. The Zhenyang sky suddenly turned into a cold light, as if entering another world. That's ghost land. But compared to the normal ghost realm, the world in this realm is extremely special. All the ghosts looked at the scene in horror. A weapon actually comes with its own ghost realm. How incredible! Is that really a ghost land? Or is it some kind of weird and unpredictable supernatural thing? At this time, the Blood Corpse King, who turned into a ghost and had his blood flowing, also widened his eyes. Is he coming again? One spear, one devil. Now he took out a ghost weapon with the same evil power, and it looked more magical than a spear, and it actually had its own ghost realm. Are you a wholesaler of ghost weapons? As the captain of the 3rd Law Enforcement Team, he had never heard of a ghost at the level of a Ghost King. Even an abyss-level ghost like the City Lord has probably never seen such a special weapon. This time it hit the wall. But he didn't panic. Transformed into the form of ghost blood, his state is somewhat special, and he is immune to most single-body supernatural attacks. Even if an abyss-level ghost hits him with a supernatural object, it will only hit him with the ghost blood at most. When shared across the entire body, supernatural attacks become insignificant. When he went back to report the matter, the 3 major law enforcement captains gathered in the community and rushed out. A mere human being, even if he possesses a very miraculous supernatural thing, is still as small as an ant and can be crushed to death at any time. Looking at this scene, Shen Jian drank coldly. Come on. As if possessed by Runtu, he picked up the steel fork with his hand and inserted it directly into the ground. Blood Corpse King? Has he completely lost his mind because he can't be caught? Because he will agree if you shout? And I'm riding a horse without barking. You are the, and your whole family is the. In the flash of lightning, the Blood Corpse King looked up and saw a young man with a hemp rope tied to his wrist and a steel fork thrust towards him. The distance between the two is less than 10 centimeters. What's the situation? The Blood Corpse King was horrified. He has turned into ghost blood state. When did he condense his true body again? Moreover, when was he pulled in front of Shen Jian when he was more than 100 meters away? Ghostland. Wrong. That's not the case with Ghostland Mobile. It was more like he was forced to be pulled under the steel fork. Laugh. With one stab, the Blood Corpse King's ghost blood body seemed to be stabbed into a physical body, and a shrill scream suddenly sounded. Shen Jian picked it away. He has always had little quality and no sympathy for male ghosts and ugly ghosts. Can't you bear this little pain? It's just a little penetrating injury. Even this is unbearable. If I gave you a pregnancy package with a glare, wouldn't you cry out from your intestines? Damn's not strong at all. Laugh. Shen Jian provoked and nailed the Blood Corpse King to the ground. The excitement of childhood textbooks finally came true for him. Ah! Nailed to the ground by a steel fork, the Blood Corpse King screamed again. He was horrified to find that he was unable to move despite his supernatural powers. Human, what have you done? What on earth have you done? He roared. First, his body was shattered by a shot, and then he was crucified to death with a fork. The face of the law enforcement team, the members of the law enforcement team who were watching the show were all humiliated. What are you doing? He only has one gun. As long as he gets close, he will be dead. Otherwise, do you think this human will let you go back if you don't intervene? After the Blood Corpse King finished speaking, he shouted at his subordinates who were hiding aside to watch the show. Substitute. He will definitely replace all these idiots when he returns. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing for him to take it back. Hear this. The wavering members of the law enforcement team also roared one by one, "The captain is right. The law enforcement team that humans dare to attack the city lord's palace will definitely not leave alive. The captain must be saved. Yes, he just grabbed one shot and fought with him. This man is too murderous. He killed 2 of our red-coated men at the slightest disagreement. He must be a murderer without blinking an eye. Don't expect him to show mercy to us. Fight with him. Long live the law enforcement team, long live the city lord's mansion. Nothing can stop me from defending the dignity of the law enforcement team." For a while, the scene seemed very high. Morale is high. All the evil ghosts are determined to face death and fight against Shenjian to the end. Dawn will not be extinguished by humans. The devil can never defeat the brave man. Darkness is never a match for light. Tang Xin. Just, it feels weird. But she couldn't tell what was wrong. I just feel a strong sense of dissonance. Shenjian saw everything. He raised his eyebrows and said, "I advise you not to be impulsive. Impulsiveness will only make me add another dead soul in my hands. Group of ghosts. Advise your mother. Damn thing. You, the source of darkness, can never extinguish the light in our hearts." The group of fierce ghosts became even more angry. With a sinister gaze that selects and devours people, they rush forward one after another. Shenjian dropped the Rakshasa gun. A group of ghosts sneered. "Come on, he's scared. He's scared, there's a chance." The ghosts are excited. Extremely excited, one after another pounced on them. Soon he was within 3 meters of Shenjian. This gave hope to the 3 red-clothed fierce ghosts in the ghost group. Their supernatural power was no less effective than a ghost king when they were up close. As long as they stay close, they have hope. Victory is at hand. Alas! Shenjian let out a long sigh. "Why don't you listen to my advice? Lefa." With a whisper, an indescribable aura of terror rose from Shenjian. Tai Chi. The sound was like a thunderous thunder, and countless terrifying golden thunder burst out from his body, covering his whole body. At this moment, the bright golden light tore through all the fierce ghost encirclement and suppression. Countless golden thunder lights seemed to be equipped with GPS positioning systems, and they accurately hit the dozens of fierce ghosts that rushed towards them. In just a moment, the members of the law enforcement team were wiped out. This is Lefateji Lei. It is different from Taxiao Lei and Tai Lei. Is the range AoE? The Blood Corpse King was nailed to the ground, observing this breathtaking scene from close range. The whole ghost was confused. Where did this monster come from? Can we, the most powerful thing like thunder and lightning, be able to master it? You are so cheating. The Blood Corpse King almost vomited blood. He would rather be killed by Shenjian's supernatural power than encounter the invincible monster. Do it all. Shenjian didn't feel anything. He was immersed in the joy of catching ghosts and stuffing them into sacks. Today, he is no longer the empty shell lord of the underworld before. Today, he has opened the 13th level of the 18th level of hell, the city god's hall has been established, and he already has the candidate for the city god. The number of ghost kings caught has exceeded 1 hand. Even if the ghost king is thrown into the 18th level of hell to be tortured, he is not afraid of the embarrassing situation where the ghost king resists and no one can suppress him. After this wave of arrests, if you catch another wave, won't the 14th floor of hell be unlocked? Shenjian Miai is happy. Finished cleaning the battlefield. By the time Shenjian returned to Villa number 9, it was already dark. The properties in Guangsheng community are indeed worthy of the name of high-end community. It only took half a day to restore everything to the way it was before. At this time, the room was very quiet. Think about it. Shen Jian pushed open the master bedroom. A pair of rippling eyes opened. Watching Shen Jian sneaking in, the needlework ghost pursed his lips and said, "Why are you here? You are not afraid of sleeping alone. The second bedroom is such a big space, and you can sleep alone." Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. "I'm used to holding pillows," said. Shen Jian had already lifted the quilt and lay down in it. Inevitably, he came into contact with the needlework ghost Qin Lu's skin. This moment, Qin Lu, the needlework ghost with her back turned to her, also stiffened and turned red. But she didn't respond. As if tacitly agreeing.